Loaded, a podcast brought to you by Mash Those Buttons, covering World of Warcraft Classic and its community. I am Bobby, also known as Blazin' Bob, and today I'm joined by Ryan, aka Cognitive Pit. What's going on, brother?
Not too much. You're really high energy tonight for our first stream. That's good. Intro, killing it on the intro. I'm coming at you from the Blue Recluse for our first stream. Nice little, it's a good little role play tavern. You know, if you're on a role play server, you know all about the Blue Recluse, no doubt. And you can see even on a non-role play server, quite a little population here.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And we are also joined by Mel, aka Melarita. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I mean, I guess you said yep first, but technically I have like my own row on the stream, so I think that signifies that I'm the most important.
Definitely,
True,
definitely. Although
undeniable.
these
Just
will
facts,
inevitably
facts.
change because for some reason it always flops around the order of people on Discord. So I'll just be changing the nameplates going forward. Oh man. So this is our first live stream, so it's going to be a little scuffed, especially on the live version. The best version's always going to be the audio version. But if you enjoy bloopers and things of that nature, you will probably get those here and all the stuff that I end up cutting out of the actual final product. So you get some extras if you come live, and you'll also get to interact with us. And we'll try to check chat. Can't guarantee we'll answer everything and anything that's on there, but we will definitely try and check it throughout. All right, well, today's going to be a little weird. We didn't really have any Nax progression, so we're going to talk about that in our what did we do this last week in WoW, but with the holidays, we've had to kind of cancel raid nights, so it hasn't been enough to really fill up a discussion section. Then we're going to go over the news, and then we're going to do kind of a look back at WoW in 2020 and WoW Classic, and just kind of go over some of our favorite things and some of the things we did like. So strap in. Let's get it started. First off, I wanted to tell everybody that I will be appearing on the Warcraft Classic Con Before the Storm panel. It's we'll have it in the notes, but if you go to conbeforethestorm.com, you can find out all the information on these different virtual panels. Basically, if you've ever been to BlizzCon the day before, Con Before the Storm runs the day before. They sell a bunch of art. They do a bunch of meet and greets with different content creators, and they do a bunch of panels with different podcasters. So I will be joined by Def Camp, which you all know if you've been listening to the podcast. I will be joined by also Melderon. I will be joined by Josh Corbett, which is super exciting for me. He does Countdown to Classic, and he now does Countdown to Crusade. And then I will also be joined by Guck from the Barons Chat podcast. That'll be January 15th, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. I would love it if you guys would show up and say hi. Have you guys ever... Well, I know Mel and I have both been on panels before, both Overwatch panels, not ones for World of Warcraft. But have you ever heard of this, Yip?
No, I've never heard of it before. It sounds cool though.
Yeah, it's always a really good time every time we go to BlizzCon. So
Yeah, I've never really been involved with BlizzCon very much before. It's a little far. If it were East Coast based, I'd be there every year.
Yeah, that is a long journey, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I'll be out of town, so I won't get to watch you, Bob. Sorry.
You can watch me from out of town.
I'll be in class.
Get a try. The
Be in
excuse is tried.
class at,
I'll watch you, Bob.
That late at night? Harsh.
Give me the cliff notes, yep.
I think what she really means to say is she'll be at the bar with colleagues.
It's mountain time.
I know, but that would still be 5 o'clock, right? Or 4 o'clock.
I think it's 4 o'clock.
Yeah. Probably 4. Oh, well. All All right, well, let's jump in. We did get some more iTunes reviews. Christmas came late, but it came hard and fast. Yep, you want to jump us into that?
Yeah, we had 3 new iTunes reviews, so thank you everybody for that. The first one was from Introverted Warlock on iTunes. Always look forward to new episodes. Hey, Reloaded team, there you're all equal. I think in our heart of hearts we know that can't possibly be true. Quasi here, been listening for a while and I love the podcast. As a fellow sweaty casual, I can relate to a lot of your stories, especially progression. My guild is 13 out of 15 in Nax at the moment, and it's been so much fun despite the amount of gold and energy it took to get here. Hopefully, I'll feel the same way a month from now. LOL. I agree. It's taken a bit. One thing I'd like to see in the future episode is some compare and contrast, e.g., the pros and cons of DKP versus Loot Council as guild loot systems, and what you all think about both. No shade to these systems, but I kind of miss simple main spec over off spec rolling. I also love the idea of a segment for letters from listeners. Great idea. Looking forward to those. Might write one myself. You definitely should. Anyway,
Definitely.
hope the holidays treat you all well and look forward to more episodes. Thank you very much, Introverted Warlock. We definitely want to talk about those topics too. But if you've heard any of our podcasts, just talking about the weekly stuff, and we end up droning on for 2 hours about that because there's just so much to talk about. So those are definitely things we want to talk about, and we've talked about talking about as well too.
Well,
This
okay. But the problem is, though, I do want to do an episode on different types of loot systems. The problem is that Mel and I have only been involved in DKP type uh, guilds. We've never been involved in a loot council. We've never been involved in a guild that just does main spec over off spec rolling. So we don't really know. So we need like a guest that's really lived out all of those different scenarios, or at least the ones that we're not familiar with. So we will work on that, and that'll be something during a downtime when news and everything else is light. But we will have something like that in the future sometime.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely want to talk about that stuff. The next review is from, I'm going to try, Yay, 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 on Bigglesworth. Love this pod, been listening weekly, and am really enjoying your Classic WoW content. It's hard to find a podcast that only focuses on my favorite game like you guys do. My guild is suffering a bit due to holidays, Shadowlands, and player burnout, so it's been cool to live vicariously through your guild's Nax experience. Love the priest healing content, as that is what I main as well. Keep it up. And again, that is from Yayayi
Yeah,
in the guild lunchtime of Bigglesworth, one of the
nice.
best named servers that exist. And finally, another review from Redmond Taylor. Thanks for helping pass the time. As an over the road trucker, I find myself always searching for something interesting and new to listen to in the Apple Podcast app. Being a longtime WoW player, I was happy to find something long form to listen to dealing with classic WoW. Your podcast has been consistently entertaining and educational. I, for one, am undecided on whether or not I'd be willing to transfer to the Burning Crusade expansion. Being on the road all the time, I sometimes struggle to find time to play, maybe an hour or so a night using my laptop and mobile hotspot. And being an altaholic and on a tiny server horde side where pugs rarely form, I don't know if I'll ever be able to clear KT, and I wouldn't feel satisfied leaving Classic until I do.
Listen,
Thanks
the
again for the
first time I
podcast.
read this, I read it
Yeah.
as in being an alcoholic and
I
on a
read the
tiny
same
server.
thing.
I was like, that's sharing.
Yeah,
Okay.
as soon as the driving's over, he parks and he whips out the
Start drinking
alcohol.
some
Hey,
beer,
no
and then
judgment.
all of a sudden, an hour later, face on the keyboard. But no, I
That's it.
read the same thing, and then I went back and was like, oh, altaholic.
Yeah.
Then he finishes with, thanks again for the podcast. I never knew what a flash set was until listening. 7 arrows on Arcanite Reaper. We have some guildies who have characters and some tunes over on Arcanite Reaper. It's kind of an anecdote.
I do
But
love.
thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I do love how some of the people are starting to sign with their server and character names. I think that's really neat. Like gives it more
Yeah, I was
life.
saying, I was saying before the podcast, it reminds me of like the old days. If you look at on Classic Wowhead, any comments from like 2006, people were often signing themselves as their character and the server they were on. I thought that was cool. Or if you look at the Arcanite Reaper item or something, you'll see people offering their services to craft them and things like that. I always thought that's kind of like adorable. There's so many servers, but people are still just like, I can craft this. 20 gold.
That's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah, I mean now we're just so I I guess we just have it so good, but we don't even realize how good we have it. I mean, like every server has its own Discord where they can coordinate different things, talk about different things. We used to have just the WoW forums and our server forums, and that place was toxic. Like there was no community mods really keeping the server, you know, safe. It was all out war, and people were angry on the forums. It was horrible. All right, well, let's go ahead and move into what have we been doing lately in WoW. So all I've really been doing this last week because of the holidays was just raiding next. Have you guys done anything besides that either?
I've had to do some recruiting. That was something that I've been hopping on for. But other than that, not too much. I have a decent amount of gold right now. Pretty soon, I'm going to be probably more into a little bit more farming, doing more of the Scarlet Monastery herb runs and things like that to make sure I'm stocked up. But I have enough gold for a few weeks of next. So over the holidays, I took it pretty easy and did our raids.
Yeah, I mean we killed the same bosses again in Nax. We killed how many bosses did we do on Tuesday? We did two.
We did 9 again.
We
We just
did
did it in a
9.
different order. Yeah,
Yeah.
so this time we did Vesuvius and then Gothic and left up all of the Plague Wing because the Plague Wing is really easy. So we had to do an off night raiding night. So we knew we'd only get maybe just 30 people, and you can kill Noth and Hagen with just 30 people. So that's how we did that. We actually had a really good turnout, which makes me feel pretty good about our guild going forward. That in like a quickly scheduled guild event, we could get like 35 people, I think, ended up being there, which is really strong for just like a night before, hey, let's raid tomorrow, also kind of scheduling.
I feel like it was only 30.
No, we had 35 by the end. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it was a super good turnout.
Yep. We ended up doing BWL and an MC binding run, which BWL I'd forgotten about that place.
It's
I
kind of
know,
a
right?
blast. And you kind of forget. I mean, we were in BWL for a long time, but a lot of the gear in BWL is like game bis gear or close to it. Like there's a lot of pieces. We got a Nelf's tier from Nefarian. I think we've only gotten 2 or 3 of those in like the 9 months we were doing BWL. So it was kind of fun to go back and pick up a few pieces that people really needed. We had a new priest who ended up getting a Locomere, which is super awesome. So it ended up being very worth going back and doing, and it was kind of fun to do it with like slightly smaller rate, a little more chill. We have so much gear now that we don't have to really try that hard, and it was kind of fun to go back.
Oh, it was definitely we were having a good time. Those are always my favorite raid nights when everybody's just having fun, cracking jokes. Like IDD's drinking a lot more, you know.
Yeah.
He's getting real fun, and I mean everybody just having a good time, and I really enjoyed it. Oh, but yeah, we're hoping once next week hits, we should be back on track, back on actually doing next progression. We should be able to report back to you with more bosses down. Just,
Fingers crossed.
yeah, fingers crossed. Send us your positive vibes, and maybe that'll help us push through.
I
We
believe
got
in
this.
us.
All right, guys. Well, let's move into the news. So, the Scourge invasion is finally over, and this was the weirdest thing ever because it was on our server supposed to end weeks ago, and then, it was supposed to like set its 1 week timer before it ends. And then the 1 week timer passed, and it just kept going. But it did end up shutting off on the 31st. Now, there was problems with a lot of servers where no vendors stayed late. Like they all disappeared. So a bunch of people were stuck with a bunch of necrotic stones.
Yeah.
And they did bring those vendors back, and they're supposed to be through the weekend. I don't know if they'll keep them longer. You guys will hear this episode on podcatchers on Monday, so it'll be a little too late. Sorry about that. If you came and watched live on twitch.tv/mash those buttons, you would know. But either way, hopefully they keep them a little bit longer so nobody gets stuck with stones. I got stuck with 3, but honestly, I did a whole bunch of farming with Kim Jong-un, who was on the podcast last week. Did a bunch of farming with him. I've got around, I believe right now, 90 stones. And looking at it, it's probably 5 stones a week. Or sorry, 10. So I've got like 8 or 9 weeks worth of stones. So I should be good. It's not horrible. I would have liked to have had it for sure just till the end of Classic, or even more so I could help guildies out, because we didn't have a lot of guildies doing that farm. So there's not a lot of people that have those stones.
Yeah, on that, what if I don't know if this will be a successful business venture or not, but you can apply the stones to other people's weapons. Maybe sitting outside of Nax and just selling them, 50 gold an application. You might be able to make some gold that way.
Especially just in a couple weeks when people really have things on farm and they're really trying to parse. It could be lucrative, although I didn't get really enough to do that. But there probably are people that are going to do that.
Yeah. So if you have a lot, don't tell your guild. Just don't use them. Done sharpening stone. It's all good.
If I would have known this, I would have been taking my share of the loot when I was helping Bob and selling these outside of Nax. Come on.
Oh, man. All right. Well, on a little bit sadder news. So recently, a streamer lost 30 grand to a weak aura. Basically, he pretended to be like one of the guys, like, friends. He changed his name just a little bit. He said, "Hey, I got this weak aura. Check it out." He loaded the weak aura. He also said, "Hey, I sent you something in the mail." Streamer goes to open the mailbox. You can see it in the link we're going to put. You can see it just like a split second it takes for him to send all of his gold to this other guy. And he is mad. I felt so bad for him, but it's crazy that a weak aura can actually screw you that bad.
Yeah, this happened in retail a few expansions ago. It might have been even Kata, where there were weak auras going around that would disband your guild. So you'd import the weak aura and your whole guild would be disbanded, which is pretty frustrating to deal with. I think that this brings up a lot of questions about what should be considered like scamming in WoW. This falls into it. Like, I think that Blizzard should give this guy his money back. I know it's a third-party software. Like, you don't have to use weak auras. Like, no one, it's third party. You should have been more careful.
Yeah,
But like,
come
weak auras
on.
is a staple. Like, weak auras is a staple of WoW. So to be able to come in, so like, I get it, but it's allowed software. They allow add-ons. I don't think if someone's doing this maliciously, it's so easy to track who did it. You can see where that 30K gold gets sent, and then ban that dude's account and give him the 30K back if it's still there. I don't think that is unreasonable. Like, if I can get scammed, if someone gets banned for scamming me in like an enchanting trade, someone should get banned for this.
I was
Right?
just about to mention, I know for a fact, like, if someone agrees to enchant something for you, you trade the mats and they run off with them. I know for a fact that they get a short ban and you get all of your stuff back. But
Yeah.
I don't know about this just because of what you mentioned, because it's a third party program. I'm just not sure. But really, if it's someone, I mean, even if it's someone you trust, I mean, even if it's a guildie, it might just be a better idea for them to send you the link to the actual Weak Auras site that's been, checked out by those mods there. It might just be safer just to do that and just save yourself the problem, because this guy thought it was a guy that he knew, and there's just one little letter was changed up just a little bit, and so he didn't realize that it wasn't his actual buddy. So even a buddy, like, just be really careful with weak auras. And I've been told that ever since, I mean, for years, not to accept weak auras from people you don't know, but there might be a lot of people that do not know that that's dangerous.
This to
You
me is
could
on the
avoid
same.
this altogether with just not having very much money on you at any given time. I
I
dare
think
you to send me this weak aura.
this is just like a phishing scam to me. So I don't think that this should be treated any differently. I think he should be able to get his money back. If someone messages me from Bizzard or like they'll change the L to an I and just messes me with some random thing and says, "Hey, go to this website because your account, is banned or we're gonna ban your account or something," and you go enter your info. Yeah, it's your fault for doing it. But Blizzard, if your account gets hacked, is gonna return all your stuff to you because it's a phishing scam. This is basically the same thing. They're just using weak auras to fish. So
Right.
I don't know. I would like it if Blizzard took action on this sort of thing. But even greater, we talked about this last week. People who abuse the auction house, I also think that they should get banned too and money should be returned because there's a clear, I don't know where the line falls, but there is a clear line between overpaying a little bit and somebody intentionally trying to trick you out of your money. Blizzard is okay if you make loot rules through text. Like if you say, if this item drops, it goes to me no matter what, and then someone ninjas that, they will give you that item back because you had a verbal agreement. I think that in a situation where you're paying 500 gold for a mana pot, you know that there wasn't an agreement to make that transaction, so it should be revoked somehow. So I think it would be nice if they were a little tighter on people who are scamming. And then, of course, on bots as well, too. It just seems like they need more enforcement of rules in general so that it doesn't turn into like utter mayhem in this game.
Yeah, and I mean, the original auction house was flawed, but no changes. They're not going to add the new auction house in. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
like I said last week, just get a mod that actually does the auction house for you. It's going to make your life easier anyhow. So,
yeah, that's really all you can do. You can't expect them to make any like major changes to their TOS or something, or make major changes to how they run. I just don't see that happening. But it would just be nice, give back to the real legitimate players of the game.
yep. So, in other kind of exciting news, there's a new leak, and we have a new leak boy on deck. It was NanoNost was doing all the leaks, but now Stay Safe has put his foot into the leak boy arena, and he says that he got good information that basically the beta for TBC will be sometime in February, most likely right after BlizzCon line. He says that the TBC pre-patch will hit U.S. servers on the 13th of
April.
And the 14th of April in Europe. And then he says that TBC will launch on May 4th. So it's Star Wars Day. Should be kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna be too busy cosplaying as Qui-Gon Jinn. How am I supposed to play TBC that
All
day?
these overlaps with the nerdiness, right? Like, come on.
This is like the Shadowlands launch happening right before next.
Right, all over again. They
I
never learn their lesson.
This all
Oh my
makes a lot of
gosh.
sense. This leak is probably like 100% accurate. Uh, just to throw that out there, like pretty much every leak that has any kind of source, they've been pretty straight accurate. Like NanoNost, I thought it was strange to hear that Nax would come out in early December, and the fact that it launched December 1st to me, it was just like, okay, it was clearly an accurate leak. I'm sure it's the same thing here. The timeline makes sense. I was expecting them to announce the TBC beta at BlizzCon line, but they'll probably announce it and just say it's live right after, or it'll be live
Right.
as soon as BlizzCon line is over. Or like people, I guess no one could be trying it out since there's no actual con or anything. If there was one, I bet that's what they would do. Let people try it out a little early there.
So
So
sad.
these dates make sense. I think this is plenty of time. I think most guilds will probably stop raiding come the pre-patch, so like mid-April, which means you're raiding Nax from December 3rd to mid-April. I think that's a pretty strong amount of time. We're talking about 4.5 months of a raid tier.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds completely accurate to me. And lots of people pointed out that it was probably a straight up Blizzard leak. I mean, they would have been getting this information out to us end of October, early November at the real BlizzCon. It's probably where they would have talked about Nax also. So it's probably a pretty legit leak. You could probably count on it, but as with any leak, you can't completely count on it. It's not official until Blizzard says something. I would love for them to just give us some information on how the transition is going to go, because I need to know if I should make another alt. I can make another alt now and level them so much faster than I will be able to in TBC, but I don't want to do that if I'm just not going to get to take them. I'm almost sure that they're going to let us take our characters, but I want some official news from actual Blizzard.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be nice. I probably expect we'll only get that news come February. I don't know if we're getting anything earlier than that. It would be the sooner we know, the better. But again, we talked about that survey last week, so they still probably are trying to get some data exactly about how they want to move forward with it, which is sort of nice to hear. If there is, it's a little bit data driven. That's always good. But I don't expect to hear much before BlizzCon line or like that February date.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to know about the pre-patch, because there's no reason in my mind that they shouldn't allow Blood Elves and Draenei to be made at that point and start
I was actually
leveling.
Yeah, I don't exactly remember. I thought when Burning Crusade came out, it was only once the expansion actually launched you could do that,
It
unless I'm mistaken.
it
Yeah.
it was, but the whole reason for that was because you had to buy the expansion. But since you don't have to buy the expansion now, I see no reason not to let Blood Elves and Draenei just start their characters then, you know?
Giving the Alliance and I guess the Horde as well too with Paladins, but Shamans are super important in raids. It would be really nice to have that like 2 to 3 weeks before in that pre-patch to be able to level shamans. It's more than possible to level to 60 in that time. I do hope they give us that time so we can do our final Mara runs. Business will be booming again for the mages, and
Yeah.
then we can move into TBC with shamans that are 60. It is, if you do want to reroll shaman, it's going to be a pretty big pain to re-level while everyone's doing content and they're leveling and you're just trying to get to 60 still. I think that is going to incentivize people who want to play shamans to go to fresh servers, which I assume there are going to be some. I think that was even part of the leak they mentioned, or maybe Nano Nost mentioned that he thinks that there's going to be fresh TBC servers where everyone has to start at level 1. That's going to be a little more attractive to people who want to start shamans, which means shaman population might be down on servers that doesn't happen on. So I really hope they do let us level a little early.
Well, and you talked about mages getting business back. That would be the last couple weeks that mages could really do the boost that they could do, because with the way the AoE rule changes, there's no more Moradon 280 mob pulls. It would just take
Yeah.
3 hours to actually kill him because of the way it divides your AoE damage based on the amount of mobs you have. So it is going to be a pain to level those guys up if you can't level them until but actually no, now that you just said that, the pre-patch will change the AoE rules. So
Will it?
mages will, yeah, I mean it should. I believe that was a 2.0 change. We'd have to check to make sure. But yeah, that would essentially
Yeah, that'd be a
kill
problem
that.
also. I guess that would be a problem also. I mean, I guess we'll just have to wait and see and hear what info they give about exactly what's coming out and when.
Listen,
Um,
they're also releasing it on Valentine's Day, so, again, setting themselves up for failure.
Yeah, I'm not sure most of the sweaty
Okay,
nerds,
okay.
have
Yeah, all
love
this results
interests.
in is Bob being like, "So, can we do Valentine's Day, like, on Saturday this year?"
We always do it on a different day anyhow because we don't want to deal with
Okay.
crowds. All right.
That's
Well,
fair.
I'm pretty excited about it. I just want to know more. I want to know as much as I possibly can, because everything's kind of winded down in Classic, and there's a whole lot of stuff that I can't wait to do in TBC. And that kind of brings us to our discussion. Unless you guys had anything else to say on the
I think
leak.
that No, I think the leak numbers make sense. There's going to be a lot to talk about when we find out more about how it's going to launch. That's really like what we're waiting for. You're right. It's how it's going to launch. What's in the free patch? When can we level
Right.
shamans? These sort of things are going to matter.
Yeah.
Well, they did ask in chat if we thought that the BlizzCon experience would be the same as it was for BlizzCon Live. And I said absolutely not. I think BlizzCon for me, when attending it, was more about the people and the interactions and all of that. And honestly, I watched most of the discussions on the virtual ticket after BlizzCon because I got stuck in the hallway talking to somebody else on the way over there.
Well, and it's definitely for us. It's definitely not going to be even close to the same. Just because it really is about the people. But I really do wish the only time I ever went to BlizzCon, like the first time I went, was when I started, podcasting. So just that right there gives you an in to a lot of different parties, a lot of different get to togethers. You get to meet like your favorite content creators in person. You get to party with them. And I wonder if that would have been the same experience had, just the year we tried to go way back when it was just going to be you, me, and two of our buddies. I wonder if the experience would be the same as it is been for us now, because when we go now,
That's
we
true.
see so many people that we know. The first year we met a bunch of people, and we'd already known people from content creation and having guests on the show, but we just keep meeting people, and then all of a sudden, you're running into just people everywhere by 3 or 4 years in, and I wonder if that would really be the situation that the majority of people are in. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the way to make it as enjoyable as possible is not watching the virtual ticket like a virtual ticket. You're just like alone in your house. I think the best thing you can do is have like a watch party with people. We talked about it in our guild. We might do something for a podcast. Who knows? But having a group of people to watch it with and talk about it is going to be a lot more enjoyable than just like hanging out and looking at BlizzCon. So the way
For
to make
sure.
it most enjoyable is to do it with your guild, do it with WoW friends, um, talk about what's coming out, even for other games and stuff. Definitely drink alcohol if you are of age. That'll surely help liven up the watch
Surely help
party.
the entertainment value.
And if you're not of age, I won't tell.
I will. Don't
All
tell
right,
me about it.
Mom.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, wait, there was one more thing.
oh, okay, go ahead.
They also asked for TBC, do you want to keep your main or reroll? I don't know how to pronounce this name in chat, so that's why I'm not saying it.
Be our guest, NYC.
Okay.
Be our guest. Be our guest. Be our guest.
It's bingo.
Is it really?
I
Never
should have
mind,
known
I
with the
retract
Disney
the
stuff.
question.
Yeah, just throw the question out.
Yeah,
But
we are. Mel and I. Mel's actually not re-rolling PVE. She's going to stay priest. She's going to PvP with her druid. I am re-rolling PvE to be a warlock, and I'll be PvPing with my warrior. What about you, Yip?
I can't decide anymore. I thought I was pretty sure I was just going to move on with my warrior, especially if I get Thunder Fury, which is still eluding me. Because it'll just be like I'll be building up a lot of stuff on a single character, which is no like cross account stuff. So I really want to focus and do everything with one character. Mages are so sick also. So I've been thinking about mage, and I really like Wrath Paladin tanking. So I was thinking about even maybe being a holy paladin come TBC, but without dual spec like Bob likes, there's daily quests to do. And when you're a healer, a tank can be kind of challenging too, but especially a healer, those daily quests are so annoying to go do every day. There's so much out in the world content to do in TBC. It'll be kind of a bummer to be maining a healer. So I'm not sure exactly what I
Man.
want to do.
Yeah,
If you're playing with Bob,
I guess like maybe it still is. The jury is still out. It's possible I could play my mage over the warlock in PVE. It just kind of depend if warlock might just be really saturated. So it just might depend on where I land, you know, who I'm playing with and what they have. It'll just kind of depend. But I'm playing in the Warlock.
And Warrior, so Warrior is going to be very saturated for what's required come TBC. That's another reason I'm kind of afraid of my Warrior. If I'm going to play it, I basically have to tank. So it's really about deciding whether or not I want to tank in TBC or not. I think that's a decision I need to make at some point, and then that'll help inform what I want to do.
Yep, yep. All right, well, then let's go ahead and move into discussion. So we didn't really have a whole lot to discuss this week. Not a whole ton going on. I mean, the TBC leak is cool, but we've talked about TBC a lot. The next time we talk about TBC, I really want to dive into specific things where we talk about, you know, specific parts instead of just, you know, the basics, which we've covered in episodes prior. You can check those out. We've done a couple of them. I wanted to kind of go over a year in review and maybe a little bit over a year, but just basically classic WoW and what we liked and what we didn't like, because there's been a bunch. There's been a bunch of lessons learned. There's been a bunch of fun had. There's been unfun that's had, like MC for a year and a half. Is it really that fun? You know, I had to join Ashley on that, you know. I was like, okay, well, I can't argue with this. I like to argue like a lot of points with her, but I could not argue this with her. It's not fun. But let's just start from the top. What is your guys' favorite dungeon?
I had a struggle on this one, what my favorite dungeon is. But I'm going to have to go with Blackrock Depths, which I think might surprise some people because I know a lot of people don't like it in there. But when you take Blackrock Depths for what it is, don't think about the 500 hours you spent getting your Savage Gladiator chain or the 100 runs it took for you to get your Hand of Justice from Angerforge. I don't want to think about that. What I want to think about is it is just such a cool concept for a dungeon. It's enormous, first of all. It's separated into these insane sections of you have a prison, you have the main city, you're going into an emperor's room and defeating the Senate first before you take down the emperor of a city. Like this would be like a horde dungeon where you raid Ironforge. You're going in, you're like slaughtering civilians of the city. And then you're taking down all their generals and bosses. It's like it's really a cool dungeon, and you don't have to do it all. You can do it in sections. It's a really wide level range, and I just love the concept. I love Blackrock Mountain as a concept. You got like Rag getting summoned up. You have Nefarian, the true, you know, overlord of Blackrock Mountain. And that all really starts in Blackrock Depths. So I think that's really the coolest place. My other choice would probably be Scarlet Monastery.
But
I
you
think I've
only get
always loved
one.
it. I know. And I also mean the entire Scarlet Monastery, so that's not really fair either. So
Right? Just take
It's
everybody's.
still smaller than Blackrock Depths, to be fair.
oh yeah. Yeah, it is.
It's true.
What about you, Mel?
Okay. My favorite dungeon. Can I say my least favorite dungeon first? Because it's Sunken
Yeah.
Temple.
Sure.
Because it's the worst dungeon ever. Okay.
Sunken Temple is a pretty rough dungeon, and
And you
it's
have to
surrounded
do
by
it.
better options.
Yeah, but you have to do it for like your class quest. At least every class
Yeah.
I've played, I've had to do it. And it's so annoying.
Yeah, it's definitely frustrating. Just imagine how frustrating it was to us players before all the YouTube guides were there. We're sitting there playing with those stupid statues and trying to figure out what the heck we're doing. And we didn't have time to read quest text. We didn't know what the heck to do. We're just like, okay, just turning stuff. Nothing's working.
Right.
Finally, you get this one crazy nerd that knows how to do the entire dungeon, and you go through it, and then you don't remember what they did. And you're just like, okay, we're
They
never
did
It's
it
coming back.
all.
almost good. Like it has a lot of good concepts in it where it's like this giant temple. It's just like the stuff I like in BRD. I just think it's executed much more poorly in Sunken Temple. Half
Yeah.
the dungeon, you're in a tiny corridor, just like circling
Right.
around, and like
Yeah.
that alone is just very odd. It's like the undercity of dungeons where I just can't do it. Can't navigate it.
I can't get into it. I can't get into it. I get lost. I'm so annoyed. I'm like out at the little like balcony ledge, like, where are you guys? Can somebody just come to a balcony so I can see where you are?
All right, so
Oh, it's fine.
what's your
Okay,
favorite?
so my favorite, I would have to go with Mordon. And I say that one because of boosting and it leveled me. So like the entrance of Mordon looked really cool. 2 because I did a lot of farming in Mordon with Bob. So we were able to farm a lot. It was easy enough that we could do it just us two, and there's a lot of good herbs in there at the time that we were doing it. Now, not so much. But I think that that was probably the dungeon I spent the most time in.
Yeah.
I think if you exclude the farms that you can do, I think I hate Mordon, honestly.
Well,
It's just like it's so big and confusing also. Like it's large, confusing,
It is
and
getting to Mordon,
until
have you ever tried to get to Mordon in a like one of the colors that you don't know how to get there? Because like I always would go down, I think it was orange, and then one time I tried to go down purple, and it was like mind blowing how I couldn't get
yeah,
back to where I came
just to
from, and I
find
couldn't
your
find a
way.
kitchen door.
Yeah, just to get into the dungeon. But it was frustrating as heck for us early on, but we did so much farming there that it turned into like we knew how to get anywhere, anytime, and it became easy.
while we're talking about Mordon, let me give it a little quick tip. A little tip for you. If you're leveling mining,
Yip tip.
Mordon is amazing. Yep, it's a yip tip. Mordon is amazing if you're leveling mining. I don't know why you would level mining anymore. It's not very lucrative, and I don't think it's very good in TBC either. But if you are leveling mining, once you hit Mithril, if you have the Staff of Celebros and you teleport to the waterfall, just running through, not to Princess, but just running through the corridors right after the waterfall where you can teleport immediately, you'll have like 5 nodes in there, and you can just do the 5 nodes, reset, do the 5 nodes, reset, and it's way better than going out in the world and mining Mithril. Like
Yeah.
it's way shorter, it's way better. Like Mardon's great for those sort of things.
Well,
Well, and Bob
and
was mining and I was herbing, and so at the time, it was just very lucrative for us. On top of, like, those little stones that you get, like the gray stones, sell for a ton.
yeah,
And at
the
that
stones
point,
are vendor really good.
elemental earth and solid stones were selling pretty high too, so, like, all the trash loot you got was also really profitable.
Yeah, warriors can do a solo. They can solo all those rock elementals and just run through, and it's actually a good way to make gold. I'm sure like mages and stuff can do it as well too. But just running through and getting solid stone, which is worth a lot, and you can sell. Getting the like you said, the elemental earth, it's really useful for making like sharpening stone. So it's a really good farm for warriors in there.
Yeah, so for me, if we're going, I didn't even think about like the dungeon I hate the most, but I would have to say stockades because you get to stockades and you get done with it and you're like, where's the loot? I didn't get any blues. What the heck just happened? It's just,
Yeah, that is the worst.
yeah, I did not like stockades, but my favorite is also BRD, but I'll pick a different one because you pick that, but it's the same. I mean, it's Tolkien. It's, you're going in there with the ring, like you're Frodo and Samwise, and I
Oh
mean,
my god.
and there's just so many different things to do. There's so many different farms. Like Mage AoE farm, you can go in, farm your Hand of Justice. You can go and farm the arena for different things, and you can do it like fairly low geared. You don't have to be like super geared, and so that's what I love about it. But I'll do my second favorite then, and that's got to be Dead Mines. Dead Mines is just the coolest dungeon ever. You're going through it, it's kind of like the dungeon's okay. You're like, okay, we're going through some mines. And then you go into that room with the Goonies pirate ship right there, and you're like, oh my God, this is crazy. And that's when it becomes just super cool. So I would have to say Dead Mines would be my favorite besides BRD.
Dead Mines is definitely really cool. I like stockades. I mean mainly just for leveling and farming. I think it's really cool that it's just a tiny little dungeon, just jam packed full of mobs. I think that's really funny. I like the flavor of it. I like it that there's just a prison in Stormwind, and you're just going in there and squashing a rebellion. But yeah, the no loot is sort of just ridiculous, which I think they do remedy later on. I think stockades
It
ends
it
up.
is really weird, right? Because the Horde dungeon that's in Okamar isn't like that, right?
Fire Chasm's like a real dungeon, but I mean, look, for flavor, the prisoners probably don't have any gear for us. Uh, but
Yeah, that is a
it
good
is.
point. That is a really good point.
But flavor is not all there is to enjoyment. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great great dungeons. Like I said, Scarlet Monastery is super flavorful, super far away, but it's an amazing dungeon, great flavor that carries through all the way basically till 60. The Scarlet Crusade is something that is pretty important when it comes to like Nax and stuff like that. You have the Argenton versus Scarlet Crusade, so it is interesting that it all gets started at a much lower level. That's pretty much why I like Scarlet Monastery too. So I don't hate that many.
Yeah, there's a lot that I really like. I could have went on to
Yeah.
Dire Maul East, and there's a whole bunch that I like. And I really like Moradon also, but we can't choose them all. What about favorite zone for leveling? You could probably choose like one low level one and one high level one.
Don't make me do that because I really struggled with choosing
I
one
said
at
you
all.
can. You don't have to.
Oh,
I'll
God.
start because
Okay.
I've got a crazy one that nobody expects. I don't think
Don't
I
choose
didn't know
mine, though.
I didn't know people didn't like this zone. I love it. I have always loved wetlands. The wetlands has always been like one of my favorite zones, and it stems
Really?
What?
from nostalgia. Don't get me wrong, it stems from nostalgia. But I always liked arriving in the wetlands. I was a hunter back in the day, and I would just murder all these beasts and skin them. I would hang out at Raptor Ridge. I'm sure I've told this story before, but I used to get up in the middle of the night and just like farm raptors and skin them at like 2 a.m. when I'm like 13 or 12, just hanging out in wetlands. And I stayed there for so long. Like I stopped leveling. I was making money getting leather. And when I go back there, I just love the wetlands. I don't know what it is. It's a simple zone, but I like doing all the quests, and I just
But
love every second I'm in there.
you just have to, like, what I hate about it is you have to walk so much, and it's before you have a mount, and so you're
Yeah.
walking. I mean, you probably had aspect to the cheetah, so that probably helped it. But I hate how you're walking back and forth all the time. That's the part that drove me nuts.
Yeah, it was a lot rougher on my warrior this time around, but personally, I'm not a huge fan of leveling that much. I don't normally enjoy the leveling experience typically in any given expansion or game usually. I'm someone who likes to rush to end game. So Wetlands was probably one of the only leveling zones that I was really enjoying. I think later on, like Western Plaguelands has like some nice ones and easy ones, but most zones are tainted either by the horde experiences that I had or just how busy they were. When we were leveling, well, I think you leveled a little after me, but on launch, like Tanaris was horrifying, like truly an awful place to level, just because how many people were there at all times. Like you
Oh,
go to
yeah.
like it was a war zone. So that really tainted a lot of the leveling experience. It was hard to level in zones once you got to PvP, and Wetlands was like my last bastion. Like you can fight there, but you can also just like there's not a lot of horde. They have no reason to be there.
Yes.
Yep. All right. Well, what about you, Mel?
Okay, so I'll start with my least favorite instead of one high and one low level. My least favorite was Stranglethorn Vale. For
Yeah,
obvious
good
reasons.
one. Yeah, that was rough in the beginning.
Because you literally couldn't move 5 feet without getting demolished by Horde. But I think my favorite zone, okay, now my views are tainted, not because I don't like leveling, because I do like leveling, but I level with Bob. And Bob, on the other hand, does not like leveling. And so he makes us leave zones before they're complete, and it drives me crazy. And then I like start flying around at the end of the night when he's like trying to get me to come watch a show. And I'm like, I just have to do one more thing. And I'm turning in these quests. And he's like, why are you even doing that? Now you're going to be ahead of me. And I'm like, because there's a question mark that says it's complete and I need to turn it in. Okay. So I
She
think,
runs everywhere and turns
oh
everything
my
in
God.
all over the map.
Yeah, it's fine. But I think my favorite was Ungoro because like you get all the quests and you open up your map and you look at the questy and it's just full. It's like everywhere you walk, there's something for you to kill to get a quest item from. It's just wonderful.
That's true. Ongoro has that feeling that kind of I think in TBC they do the questing a little bit better where you go to town, you pick up 8 quests, and then you go do them
Right.
all, and you come back and turn them in, and then you have like the next chain for all the quests.
Right.
Like that definitely does happen in Ongoro. That is enjoyable. You go out, you like get
Feel
half a
so
level just from
accomplished.
killing. Yeah, you get half a level just from killing, and you get the rest of the level from turning in the quest. So that is a fun
Right.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, and Harskar's in chat. And he makes a good point because mine, he makes the point that Classic's launch changed his perspective on a lot of zones, and it changed mine too. Because if you would have asked me this before, what was your favorite zone to level in vanilla, I would have told you Stranglethorn Vale. It was awesome. I loved it. But in classic, I did not love it. It was rough. It was hard. It was. I mean, I think I sent out an angry tweet one night, like telling all the horde to like screw off on White Man. I think I was so mad. But
Yeah, there's been many times where I've had to stop Bob from tweeting various items because he's just really angry about something. I'm like, wait till the morning. If you still feel that way, send it out.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
I mean,
wish
I
I
ended up
could
doing so
bring them
many
all.
dungeons to level. Like that was the realism of my leveling experience is once I hit Scarlet Monastery, it was like we'll hit different zones and do the easy stuff or the less crowded stuff, but it was really dungeons, dungeons and dungeons. Like Scarlet Monastery, I think I did literally from 30 to 40, maybe like a little bit of Harathi Highlands mixed in there. A lot of Zul'Farrak, so I
But why
kind
do
of
you
missed out.
herb while you're doing dungeons?
I think I leveled thinking I was going to be mining blacksmithing. And
Oh,
I was leveling with people at first. I ended up I think like at 45 or something. I went on my my own way. But
because
on the
they were
time where they,
herbing and you were annoyed.
well, yeah. So on the time that they wouldn't play, I would go mine and level up my blacksmithing while I was waiting for them to like get into past the queue. So when we were still doing that, I had all my time
Oh
to
God.
mine and do my professions. And I was a crazy person for thinking blacksmithing was going to be worthwhile.
Yeah, that's what used to make me so angry when Bobby would have us do dungeons. So I'm like, but then we're gonna be in the next zone, and I'm not gonna have high enough herbalism to herb in the next zone. And
Yeah.
he's like sitting over there, like, thank God. And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
ow.
Yeah, it's beautiful when she passes it because, I mean, she will stop everything. She'll just stop healing me while I'm fighting 10 mobs and just walk over and get an herb and I die.
Well,
I mean, I'm not
there was
kidding with you
somebody
right
else
now.
that was gonna come. Yeah, during the Scourge invasion, he'd be like, Mel, where are you? I'm like, I'll be right there. Be right there.
It's all about priorities.
Oh man. So
So
mine would have to be Ungoro Crater too, but Mel took that, so I'll go with my second, which would have to be Westfall. I love Westfall. There's just so many quests. There's so many collection quests. Like you run any place and you're getting something done, and that's my favorite part of questing is when you can just get stuff done, turn it in, watch the bar move a ton. It just makes me feel good. Whereas running around doing just a couple quests here, a couple quests there is definitely not my cup of tea. So I would say Westfall would be my second favorite, but
Yeah,
Angoro's
leveling
sweet.
leveling my profession, like my alchemy alts and warlocks, the I only had to hit 15 to go do stockades. So in like the current way people level, doing Elwyn to Westfall to 15 is like totally pleasant. There's really no problem with it. I could probably do it infinite amount of times. Like it's not draining. You just kind of put on some music, put on Warcraft Reloaded, and then
right.
just do some quests. Like they're all pretty close to each other. They're enjoyable. You end up kind of hitting in the middle of 15. You kind of hit a wall, I think, because like the quest level sort of jumps a little bit. So sometimes you have to go somewhere else. But if you're only trying to hit 15 and then hit into stockades, it's super pleasant.
Yeah, and they're just, I mean, the quests are cool. And I mean, that's kind of by design because Elwood Forest and Red Ridge and Westfall were kind of the first quest zones that were made by the developers as a proof of concept. So
Yep.
they're actually way more fleshed out than the majority of starting zones. And so
Yeah, you
that's
talked about
why you end
liking
up.
Dead Mines, but the whole story kind of starting in it really does start in the cathedral, like that first starting zone when you're level 1 as a human. There are Defias there. It's like a very real, very localized threat that you're dealing with. It's not just like, oh, Ragnaros, we got to go kill the Lord of the Firelands. It's like we've got these basically like terrorist bandits that you're dealing with progressively. You're doing a ton of chains in Westfall. Like the Defias chains in Westfall are really cool. You're killing a bunch of different things. There's an escort quest, right? You have the messenger you're trying to like kill. So that all of that leading up to Dead Mines is really special, I think, too. Like the story is really interesting, and it's like a very generic story, but you feel like you're your character helping out the local people of the area, which I think you sort of miss later. Suddenly, all of a sudden, you're like in like Angoro's cool, but it's like, what? Why are we in this dinosaur land right now? This is
Right.
like, don't live here.
Why do I have to kill all these spiders? What are we making
Yeah.
here?
Oh man, yeah. Well, since I hum the music from Jurassic Park quite frequently, it didn't bother me being in Ungoro Crater. It just felt right. Oh man. All right. Well, so lots of us played a lot of different classes in Classic. Besides Mel, Mel played the 2 classes she's played before. But what's your?
I played a mage.
Oh, true. Yeah, that was your first mage. Okay, so has Classic changed what your favorite class is, and what is your favorite class?
Are you just skipping favorite quest?
Yeah, you
Oh
did
yeah,
skip
my
favorite
bad.
quest.
Okay, favorite quest or quest line.
I
I
thought
don't
because
have
Mel
one.
doesn't. Yeah, I thought because Mel didn't have a favorite quest, we were just gonna skip it. Like all the thought and effort I put in is
Yeah,
gonna.
forget you, Yip. I don't have one. I don't care. No, but what I will say is my favorite quest type is the ones that I can finish, and not the ones that you have to kill 82 mobs before you get an item. Okay?
Don't lie, Mel. Your
Those are
favorite
the worst.
quest type is the ones where you walk to 4 different places in Stormwind and just turn in and get that little bit of
No, I
satisfaction.
hate those. I'm like,
Yeah.
ugh,
Well, you
why?
always do them.
Well, of course I do them because they're easy and there's a question mark right across Stormwind and I'm gonna go turn it in. That's just the way I am. But I hate it because it feels unproductive and I don't want to read the story. I just want to get to the point where I need it to go somewhere else.
Bingo is bringing up. What about the benediction quest for you?
No, that was awful.
I
It
thought it
was
was cool.
awful for Bingo too. I remember sitting in chat
Who
with you
likes that
guys that
quest?
night, and Bingo just being like, "I don't know what I did this time, but I messed it up again." It was like 4 times, and finally we went to bed. Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
luckily
it was.
there was like a veteran priest there who had already done it a few times and he helped. So shout
Yeah,
out to him because
but doesn't it feel better when you struggle? Like you finally get it done. I kind of liked
no.
that doing. Well, it was kind of frustrating because it was Bingo was like a new player, and doing it with him was. It's like I can't really tell you any more than heal the, the things. I don't know what else to do.
You're
But it was
like
it.
Bob. Bob's like, I don't understand why you can't do this. Just heal the things. And I'm like, oh yeah, if it was that easy, I freaking would have healed the things, okay?
I think
But
the
I kind of
hardest
like
part is
that.
you don't have raid frames, so you're used to like healing with raid frames. So it's the same thing with like Instructor Resuvius. You have to like, oh, I have to click on something. What?
Yeah, that's probably the same with Bingo. I think if he had like grid at the time, it would have been a little bit easier to do.
No, because they
But
don't show
it's
up on your raid frames.
well, that also doesn't
Yeah.
help then either.
No.
But it's cool because like I like that there's a quest to get a powerful item that isn't accessible to everybody. Like it's a quest that's hard. Like you can't just go, oh, turn in and then you get your legendary item. It's like you have to really go get it. Like you have to
Yeah.
fight to get that item. It's not just getting those 2 eyes and putting them together. So I think that's pretty cool.
I feel
Um,
like I waited so long to get my eye though that once I finally got it, I was like, I just want my freaking benediction. Do
yeah.
I really have to go through all this? And then we get there and it was hard. And then this other priest showed up and was like, do you want me to help? And I was like, hallelujah. Yes. And then he
I think
did
that's
it
fair.
and it was great.
Okay,
But
so what is yours? Yep.
So I put 2 down. I think the best quest as far as your input to output is the Diamond Flask quest, the class quest that makes you go into Sunken Temple that Mel hates. Because
ugh,
the Diamond Flask is such an insane piece of gear that I think that's a really cool quest. So that's what I said first is again, not a huge like quest leveler. But if I had to pick like a quest chain, I think the Ani attunement is by far the coolest and most
It
interesting
is pretty
quest
cool.
possible. Like not
that's
only
true.
is it cool, it's like involved. Just like BRD, but you're going into BRD and doing stuff. You're going into Upper Black Expiring doing stuff. You have to go to This is, I'm 90% sure. Yeah, you have to go to Winter Spring and like get to the top of a mountain through like a crazy elite
Jump.
dragonkin cave. Yeah, you can do the jump, but the way you're
Oh,
supposed to do
is
it is
there
like go
another way?
deep. Yeah, you go deep into a cave and you kick a teleporter up to the person to get it.
Oh,
And in the quest text, it doesn't tell you where they are. Like the quest text is literally just find a powerful being, and maybe it says Winter Spring, but it might not even say Winter Spring. So the first people who had
okay.
to do it had to like go search for who this powerful person was who could turn their amulet into a Drakefire amulet. So like that quest is very old school RPG. It was a little more annoying in Classic
I
because
was,
where it's just like so many people are not attuned yet, and we have to do it 80 times with
well,
10 different
and
people, like
on top of that, someone's always on the
on the
wrong
wrong
spot
step.
of the quest, or
Yes.
when people are supposed to go turn in and then come back, you're like summoning everybody back, and then they're like, "Oh, I didn't do that." You're like, "Dude, okay, will you just hurry and go?" And they're like,
Yeah.
we'll wait, we'll wait." And you're just
Our
Yeah,
like
it's
our
like
sitting
like
you
around twiddling
finally get
thumbs.
that jailbreak run, and then you have to wait for them to do something else and come back, and you're just like, oh.
Yeah, I think the way it played out in Classic ended up being a little more frustrating. I think that happens with a lot of things in Classic. The really long grinds end up being annoying for min-max players or for people who take things like really seriously, or we're trying to do Ani this week, so we need all of you to have the attunement. So you're just running it over and over again and someone's always doing it wrong and stuff. So that part ends up being frustrating, but I don't blame the quest for that. I think especially when you think in vanilla terms, I think that quest change is just amazing, and it's really it's fleshed out. And you compare
Yeah,
it to like the BWL attunement, like you're just getting an envelope and then killing Drakasath, and then that's it. Like
yeah,
there's really nothing to do. Or Molten Core, you're picking up a fragment, so it really is like above and beyond, and it's just for a single boss.
Right?
yeah. So for me, my favorite quest is a quest where you don't do anything. It's beautiful.
Shocker.
So it's the final quest in the Tyrion quest lines. You know, you go through all these different quests. You go into Skolo, and at the very end of it, you dress up like one of the Scarlet Crusade. You go way
Yeah,
up
in
north.
dreams, right?
Yeah, you go way up north, and then you talk to Tyrion's son, who's like a ginormous dude. Just, I mean, the dude like ate his Wheaties for sure, but just a ginormous dude who also has a ginormous horse, which always cracked me up. But you go and you just turn it in. You stay in your costume, and then you just watch him beat up on a whole bunch of Scarlet Crusade people until the end of it, you know, where he gets killed. Sorry, spoilers. And then Tyrion comes, and then on top of it, it's like 10 or 11K EXP on top of like a really good pre-bis item. Like for
Yeah,
healers, it's
for
a
most
nuts
classes too.
item. Yeah. Caster
Did I
DPS
do that
not so
quest?
much. Yeah, it was the first ring you got that was like really good. And then warriors get or melee DPS get a necklace, and yeah, so it's a fun quest for me because I just sit back, relax, get some popcorn, and watch the show.
That reminded me how much even better the Ani attunement is, because I left out the fact that you go to Stormwind and you like role play walk all the way to Lady Katrina, and then you confront her, and it turns out that the advisor to the king, or the king, you know, the prince who's acting as king, it turns out it's Anixia. Like the whole time this lady's been standing
Imposter.
here has been Anixia, and that's like actually pretty crazy. Like that's a cool twist.
And then if you're crazy enough to attack the Dragonkins, you die, but you still can complete the quest if you just don't release.
That's what reminded me. It's not walking with the dude, it's the fact that you don't have to do anything in dreams.
Okay, I remembered another really awful quest when I was leveling my druid, and it was the one to get my Baron cat form. And the
Which
only
isn't an awful
reason
quest. It's
it was
just
so awful
circumstantial.
is because it was what was it, Bob? It was some invasion.
It was people trying to do one of the bosses for the Scepter quest for AQ.
Okay, so I get to, oh, what's that place called? I'm sorry, I'm so bad at names. Moonglade. And usually Moonglade's very easy to navigate around, right? Not today. Today, Moonglade was destroyed with people and this huge dragon in the air and all these little ghost things killing me every 5 seconds. And I was like, in all these horde, I was like, I just need to click this question mark right here. Just give me 5 seconds.
Was
It was
that
awful.
Moonglade, or was that the? I always forget. It starts with an A. It's right next to Darnassus. The boat connects it. Not Aberdeen, right?
No, it was
Ashenvale.
Moonglade.
Oh, okay. Because the dragon I thought got brought to Ashenvale. I don't know. I'm gonna stop.
Mm.
I'm gonna stop confusing myself. But yeah, it was hilarious because I'm sitting there waiting for her, and like, are you coming? And she's like, I need to get this. I was like, just wait it out. Like, go get it later. You don't need it right now to level. We're only like, I don't know. It was level like
I
18 or
needed it.
something like that. Oh man. But yeah. So all right. So now we can go to favorite class. What's you guys' favorite class in Classic?
Priest. Duh.
It's not my warrior. It's definitely mage. I think mage is my favorite class. There was a time in phase one, I think, toward the end of phase one, where I seriously considered switching. I've always loved mage. I think mage is such a cool class. There's so many different things that you can do. It's the only class to me with AoE farming. This is why I don't like the Mara farm, because it's like super. You do this, like boom, you do this, you do this. You have to do it perfectly. But with normal AoE farming with a mage, you just have a bunch of buttons and utility, and it's like up to you to kill stuff. Like I like when things go wrong when I'm AoEing, and I have to like think of what I should do in order to save the pull. Those sort of things you don't get in combat with any other class. I don't think. Like pretty much every other class is like, oh, you just do this. Like maybe with warrior, you can hamstring kite mobs to kill stuff a little easier, but that's not anywhere near as engaging. But mage is really sick. AoE farming was just as fun as it was the first time I did it. That's pretty much how I leveled, just solo AoE farming, not having someone else level me up really till the end. We had a guildie boost me from like 56 to 60, which was nice. I haven't played my mage much because I know if I start playing my mage, I'm going to not want to play my warrior as much anymore. I'm just someone who focuses on a single character really, really well.
Yeah.
So I'll lose interest in my warrior if I keep playing my mage too much. And that to me says I like mage a lot.
Right.
Yeah,
I
fair.
feel like I probably would have enjoyed mage more if I would have tried to solo level a mage, but trying to level a mage with Bob also trying to level a mage just ended in a lot of marital disputes because of our opinions about what should have happened and who effed up, but it was usually him. Sorry. But
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
All right. So mine. You know, I didn't play it in Classic, but I played it in Vanilla, and mine's still got to be Rogue. I kind of wish I had rolled Rogue. I think I would have had a lot more fun doing PvP. I wouldn't have had to dual spec a lot of the times, and I really miss stealth. I mean, I loved stealth, and getting by in Classic on all the three characters that I've gotten to 60 without stealth, man, it is rough, you know? Like stealth, you could just go AFK anytime you want, any place. You can really grief people that grief you. I mean, you can really get back at them. You know, you just wait it out and then you get them while they're fighting a mob and you always have the last laugh. Well, that's not true with a warrior. You rarely get the last laugh unless your buddies come help you and you're just like, oh my God. And I mean, even if I got to be arms, it still wouldn't have been as good as being a rogue. And so I do miss rogue quite a bit. I'll probably make one somewhere mid TBC, just kind of maybe plan to play in Wrath. But yeah, I rogue is definitely still my favorite.
If you look at TBC too with mage, let's go back to how cool mages are. Ice Lance, amazing. You get a frost elemental with a ranged nova, and you have
Invisibility.
invisibility. You have invisibility. It makes it the most like OP thing for dungeons. It's so insane how good invisibility is on a mage.
The only thing
So
that
mages only
sucks
get
though
cooler.
is mage invisibility. You can't see any mobs or people
Yeah, you
while
have to
you're
like learn a
invisible.
route. Yeah, you have to like learn a route, but it's really strong. Mages, like the fact that they just give more utility to mages, it's the thing that makes it hard to determine whether or not I'm playing a warrior come TBC or not.
Nice, nice. All right. So, favorite phase in WoW Classic?
Bob, why don't you go first? We've been hogging the spotlight.
Okay, well, yeah. I mean,
Ah,
for me, this one
typical
was
Yip.
easy. My favorite phase was phase one. If you would have asked me prior to Classic releasing, I would have told you my favorite phase is definitely going to be the one that Arathi Basin comes out. But that turned out to not be the case. Like PvP was not really something that I found that enjoyable in Classic because of the lack of resilience and just basically so many classes being able to global another class with just a split second head start. And so that was a little rough for me. So I would have said that, but my favorite was phase one. Like the magic, being excited about coming back, like seeing everything for the first time in so long. All of my friends that ended up quitting in like the 30s and 40s levels were all playing at the time. Everybody was talking about it. The streaming was huge on it. I mean, it was so much fun and so engaging. There's so many like a huge amount of YouTube content that I could, that had been made over the past 2 years that I could digest, and now I struggle to find WoW Classic YouTube stuff to watch.
Yeah.
And it was just a magical time for me. So phase one was definitely my favorite.
Phase one was special. Like I remember the day that we got the first Lionheart helm plans dropping on the server and stuff. Like that sort of stuff was really special. Like super unique that you can't really relive. That launching of a server where everyone is just figuring things out, people getting the first of items and things like that. It was really cool. Prebis was also a really enjoyable time for me.
Yep.
I really enjoyed being in a guild with other people getting Prebis and everyone needing to do dungeons feels so much better than right now where dungeons are kind of meh. You don't need them to gear anymore. Maybe like one or two pieces would be good in dungeons. But back when it was just like running 50 Ubers was a lot, but you were doing it with these people that you had just met in a new guild. So for me, that was definitely really special, but not my favorite phase. My favorite phase was phase three, I think. So BWL was the first thing that I really didn't see that much of in Classic. If you got rid of the queues in phase three, I think that's kind of an important caveat. The thing that hurt our guild the most
Right.
was queues, and queues were really bad in phase three, like 4 hours a night, and people were
Yeah. So
quitting left and right.
phase three was Warsong Gulch, Altric Valley, and BWL.
So yeah, so Alterac Valley ended up coming out a little before. Actually, they launched it before.
Yeah, they called it 2.5.
Yeah. So if you include Alterac Valley in that, then that's even better. That's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite other things when I mention later. But Alterac Valley is amazing. But Phase Three was great because you had two pretty solid raids. You had Molten Core, which wasn't you weren't tired of it quite yet. There was a lot of really good gear that could still come out of Molten Core, but BWL's gear was so insane that it was like unbelievably awesome going in there and thinking like I'm gonna go from using like my Dal Ren's weapon to a CTS. Like that's what's possible. A Maladath. These items are absolutely insane, especially over the gear you're getting in Molten Core. So that was really cool. And there was like a good level of progression. Like it took us at first, we were doing 2 nights. We had one night of BWL and one night of Molten Core. And it was cool to get better and better at BWL that we could eventually end up with doing BWL and Molten Core on one night. And I think that was kind of nice. It kind of gave people a break to go do other things out in the world as well too. So I really liked that aspect of progression where we're just trying to get faster and faster. Later on, like when ZG comes out, now we want to get faster and faster so that we can jam pack our raids full of raids. We
Yeah.
want to do ZG, Molten Core, and BWL, and it became very tiresome and lasted forever. So when you include those two phases together, it made you hate BWL. It made you so tired of Molten Core, and then you're kind of tired of ZG too. But you need the idol, so you're forced to go to it. So for me, Phase Three was like the most fun rating like kind of at the time. Without cues, I think it would have been a more clear cut favorite phase for me.
Hmm.
But then yeah, phase one obviously has so many good things in it that it's hard to compete with that as well too. Though.
Definitely. What about you,
Yeah.
Mel?
I mean, I don't really have anything new to say, I guess. I really enjoyed phase one just because it was the introduction of everything and getting in a guild, leveling up kind of like I wanted. And then raiding, I think it was all fun, right? Everything was new, everything was fresh. phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, like they always came a little bit later than you wanted them, right? At least in my opinion, right? I'm sure there were people that weren't ready for them, and I'm sure there were people that were it was just the right amount of time. But for us, I feel like it was like, okay, when are we going to get this new stuff? We've been doing this a long time, right? And even though I think the hardest part was that you kept doing the phase before's content when the new phase came out. So up until Nax, we were clearing everything from previous phases every week. And it wasn't like it was so much time, it was just another time in MC, another time in BWL, and it was a
And
lot.
doing MC basically for just a handful of items like the uh the onslaught girdle, the quick strike
Finding
ring, brutality blade still stayed pretty good for a long time. Bindings, like there were just a few items that were really good and good through the end of the game. I mean, the quick strike ring is second bis for DPS even through. There's only one ring in Nax that beats it, and that's number one bis. Number two bis is the quick strike ring that you get from Gar, and it's that part was a huge bummer and something that I don't think we're gonna have to worry much about in the future of TBC and Wrath.
I also think I
Yeah.
just had more personal time in phase 1 than I did in the later phases, right? So I was able to put more into the game then than maybe I was in phase 4 and 5 because of just other things happening in my life.
Yeah, there was a lot of, us learning, when Dire Maul first came out, us learning how to do jump runs and really hammering that down and being like, okay, next time I think we need to do this. I need to change this gear up just a little bit, maybe a little bit more tankier. Maybe if you change your spec to discipline, we could actually take the guy at the end without dying and then coming back. I mean, there's just a bunch of really cool things. And like the way we figured out how to do two-man hand of justice when we were in all blues, where we were killing Angerforge and then all of his mobs would come and we'd run to the window and reset the mobs. And I mean, there was just a lot of cool figuring things out, whereas in the later stages, it really was just about figuring out the raids.
Yeah, and what could we do to get gold in a min max type of way?
Yep.
Not
I
like
I think that's what
progression.
that so all those problems that you have with like the later phases, I think phase 3 basically escapes. That's why I think I really like phase 3. Like we weren't sick of Molten Core the same way we were like in phase 4 yet. So it was
Yep.
still fine to do both. But like after that it does get like okay. Like we were
Okay.
doing a lot of the same content. It
And
feels
we
like
knew we
every
had to do
year.
it and it was fine. We were doing it for a reason. It's not like I was ever going to say, no, I'm not doing Molten Core anymore. But it just got monotonous, you know?
Yeah, between phase 3 and phase 4, we went from we need to do Molten Core because there's gear for everyone there, and then in like phase 4 and like mid phase 4, it was like we need to do Molten Core for the few people who need these
Well,
specific items.
and the other problem with Molten Core, and I don't want to, because a lot of people enjoy doing this, but I always came on my main, and Molten Core would have been a lot more enjoyable if everybody continued to go on their mains and we were just trying to get stuff. But it ended up getting, a lot of money for the guild bank because we were selling items to alts that came, and we weren't allowing a bunch of alts to come. But I mean, when Perky's comes on an alt, you're talking about like losing, 2/3 of his DPS. You know what I mean? Like you go from a amazing warrior to an okay hunter. And hunters weren't really that good DPS wise anyhow, at that time. So
Yeah.
it's just, it made it longer and,
Yeah,
I
but it
just would
also
have
kept
preferred
certain
it.
people engaged
True.
in the guild and kept them playing and things like that. So I think there's a happy medium there, right? You need to
Yeah, and I
make
think
sure
the
that
guild found the happy medium. I was just saying it
yeah.
would have been perfect world for me if everybody came on mains, and that would have been a perfect world. But I understand with 40 people, you're never going to get a perfect world. You're going to have to compromise at times. That's just the way the ball bounces. But this next question, I'm pretty sure I know all of our answers, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Least favorite phase?
What was
Yeah,
the
I mean, it's
phase one
phase 2.
open world PvP?
It's phase
Sorry.
2.
Phase 2.
I
Yep.
mean, it's
Phase
phase 2.
2,
No
hands
doubt.
down.
The only thing it brought was the game became worse.
The
Like,
Yeah,
annihilation
brought hell.
of me all the time.
And I mean,
Yeah.
who knows? If we were Horde on our server, maybe it would have been a completely different. We would have been like, "Oh, this is so funny. We're just slapping the Alliance around," you know. Or if we
Yeah.
were Alliance dominated when it hit, maybe it would have been more fun. But I don't even see how that would have been fun. Like, if PvP's not really consensual, it's not fun unless you're taking something from them. If you're just taking time, I feel like you're just a sociopath. No, I shouldn't
mean,
I shouldn't say that because I did it
well,
when
it was
I
the
was younger. But like, if you're taking a resource from somebody, it feels like you guys fought for something. Like the Scourge Invasion, all the PvP I've done around that's been really fun. But when
well,
I'm just trying to get to Dire Mall East and it literally takes an hour, and I'm not kidding, literally takes an hour just to zone in. I mean, that's not fun.
the problem is though is that it was the only way to obtain honor, so they were doing it for a reason. It
Yeah.
was the game. The
True.
game meta was to do things like camp on a boat and murder Alliance. So
Oh, that was
that was
horrible too. I forgot about
like a
that.
really, yeah. So like that was a problem with the game itself. Only having released World PvP didn't create like, oh, we can go do World PvP, or World PvP is going to be like it's naturally going to happen more. All it did was create the game incentivized you to murder each other and
Camp and murder each other.
yeah, to camp and murder each other. It's the game itself incentivized it. So that's why phase 2 was especially rough, I think. And it's going to depend. In the first couple weeks of phase 2, when I thought like, oh, maybe I'll PvP, like let's see how high of a rank I can get. At first, it was kind of fun. You know, it was still pretty fresh in the guild. You're still meeting people,
Right.
so it was a good way to meet some other people in the guild, was to go world PvP with them. But very quickly, any positives
That died
were
down.
outweighed. Yeah.
Yeah, it
I mean,
was
that's why they
just
launched
rough.
Battlegrounds early, right? Like they launched Battlegrounds earlier than they were going to, right?
Not
Uh,
early enough.
Yeah,
yeah.
they definitely did. That's why we had phase
Yeah.
2.5, which got us Warsong Gulch and Altric Valley, which definitely helped. But it was still a little rough because Horde queue times were so big. Horde
Yeah.
would end up, one person would be queuing for him in town, and then, you know, the other 4 people in the group would be out killing people in the world, rinse repeat. Like they had super long queue times, which battle groups might have helped that. I'm not really sure on how the math works out on that, but it might have helped it for some people. So yeah, I mean, phase 2 hands down was the least favorite phase, and I hope nobody on fresh servers ever have to go through that again. Hopefully they can find a way to kind of mitigate that hell, but we shall see. Probably everybody's just gonna roll PvE servers if they do fresh.
To be fair, it probably was not nearly as bad on other servers that aren't white main.
Yeah. I mean, there
From
are
what I heard, it
any server
was
that's pretty balanced was probably better.
yeah,
Any server that's imbalanced, whichever one had more is going to be worse. I think. Like
yeah. I
I
heard a
think that's a
lot
pretty
of
big
people
given.
had problems on a lot of servers, and it just
Yeah.
depended on, you know, if you were the under balanced faction, you were having a rougher time. I mean, it killed some servers. I mean, that's what happened to Scarum. They were beating them so bad, they were camping Ironforge, and you just couldn't get anything done. So the Alliance just transferred off, and then all of a sudden, Scarum's just this, you know, weird server where the Horde won the war. You know, like Melderon says.
It would surprise me if anybody thought phase 2 was their favorite, because even
Yeah.
well, I mean, even the stuff that you would like in phase 2 was still there like in phase 3, and then
Right.
it's not, you're only doing Molten Core, so you would probably prefer phase 1 still over it. So it's kind of like they didn't bring enough to offset. There's not enough good that came with it to offset the honor world PvP. It just didn't.
All right, so what's your favorite raid?
Mine is absolutely Nax. Nax. So Nax is my favorite raid to do because of the diverse mechanics of bosses. The difficulty of it is really, really good for us. So I think that Nax is my favorite raid, period. But I think AQ for me feels better, because what happens with Nax is I just get kind of nervous. Like I'm not always having fun. because I'm like, man, we really can't mess this up. Like on the way to patchwork, I'm really afraid of seeing our melee die when I'm tanking. So like I'm way more on edge in Nax than I am in any other raid we've done. I'm just
Yeah.
like I'm popping faps, like I'm trying to do everything perfectly because I don't want there to be like a wipe or a mess up. So I think that once Nax is on farm, I'm gonna be so stoked on Nax. Right now, I'm just like, I hope the spider pulls well and we don't just like wipe or something horribly goes wrong. AQ though, so after that super long phase 3 and phase 4, and we're so sick of BWL, which I very much was kind of tired of that being the main thing. AQ felt awesome because it was so wide open. There, you have like these giant caves, you have these really wide tunnels that you're going through. Whereas in BWL, you're like crammed into this tiny little like castle, I guess. Like if you think about the way that Fire Maw is just like padding back and forth in this room. His wings are like almost touching the walls as he does it. And like where you fight him, he's like clipping through stuff. Like the it's just too small of an area for how much stuff is in there. It seems kind of silly when you look at it. It's not like a functional castle that you would be in. So I thought it was kind of weird. It's just like a tiny corridor all the way to Nefarian. And AQ was like a breath of fresh air. You're fighting battle guards Satur in this enormous circular room, and I thought that was like a really refreshing raid to do. I don't think overall AQ is like very good. I think it ended up being kind of like a whatever raid that you're just doing and trying to pick up some
Yeah,
gear for Nax. But for me, Nax I think is going to win out overall.
I agree. I think Nax is by far the most fun. The one thing I will say about Nax is that yes, I know we're in progression, but it does cost a lot of money and it does put that
Mhm.
extra pressure on everybody that if you mess up, it's going to cost a lot of people a lot more money because we have to do it again. And that's tough because if it wasn't for the money factor, I feel like it would be super amazing. But because of this extra pressure on all of these things costing so much money, people having less time, people doing other things, and the fact that you have to spend a ton of money to go in there purely for the mechanics, right? You cannot get through Lotheb without 3 shadow pots. And those aren't going to go down in price because
They
people know
have.
you can't.
They have
Okay,
though.
but
They're
not like
they're down to about 12
significantly.
per. I mean, they've almost halved over the
Okay.
last 2 weeks, which has been nice.
Well, I mean, 12 gold times 3 is still a lot of money
Yeah,
to
they're
spend on
expensive.
one
Like
boss.
the
You
Yeah.
know
greater
what I
nature
mean?
protection were 5 gold when we're doing AQ, and people were still kind of like meh on that. It already didn't feel
Right.
that good.
But I think that's my only hesitancy on Nax is that there is that extra price tag on it that might go down a little bit, but it'll always be there. I like the mechanics of the bosses and I like that they're more difficult on top of the just having to pop pots. I don't think if you pop your pots, you're going to win. There's a lot more that goes into it, and been a lot more problem solving and a lot more trying things different ways, which I think is really cool. But overall, it's been the most fun because it's really been the only thing that we've, as a guild, struggled with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seathun a couple times, but then it was pretty much easy after that.
Cthulhu. Sorry, you said Seathon, and Yip usually gets on me for that, so I thought I'd get on
Why
it.
is it not Seathun? Is that not a
It's
thing?
Cthulhu.
Cthulhu.
Oh, okay.
Bob used to say it too, I feel like, at the
Oh,
beginning.
I
When
did.
it's,
Yeah, bad. And then I thought back to like Hearthstone, but
How do you
yeah.
know it's Cthulhu?
Because they say it in Hearthstone. They say
yep.
Cthulhu, like the worshippers yell, Cthulhu.
Cthulhu.
Oh,
You should know this, although you probably never played
I play with
Hearthstone with
sound
sound
off.
on. Yep. But okay, so for me, it would definitely be Nax 2, but BWL is actually really close on my list, and I don't think it's for any good reason. It's just because it was so memorable for me back in vanilla, because our guild was the second guild on the server to drop Neff, first Alliance guild on the server, and it was like huge bragging rights, and it was just it was just a neat thing to accomplish, and so I think that's why it's there. But I mean, I definitely, if you're gonna ask me, hey, let's go do BWL or let's go do Nax right now, I'm gonna say Nax. But I mean, maybe because I played BWL a whole
Like
bunch
recency
now.
bias, right?
Yeah, it could be, but yeah,
Yeah,
I
I mean,
think
I
Nax is the
love BWL
best.
too. Like Phase 3 was my favorite, like I said. So BWL is, I think, was really fun. It was a raid that I hadn't seen a lot of, and I enjoyed doing. And there's a lot of good gear in there too. That always helps. Like I like going and getting gear, and like every boss has something really good on it.
Speaking of gear,
Yeah.
what was your favorite gear drop throughout all of WoW Classic?
Mine's obviously Onslaught Girdle. So I had some pretty our guild as a whole. I don't know if we've ever gotten into the specifics of this, but we didn't have a single Onslaught Girdle drop in phase 1 or phase 2. Our first Onslaught Girdle was the second week of phase 3. So the second week that we were doing BWL. So we are in a DKP guild. The fact that an Onslaught Girdle didn't drop in phase 1 or phase 2 has it really destroyed my chance of being like an insanely geared warrior, because we changed the way our DKP system worked, and I ended up just all my entire first 3 or 4 months, I forget how long, I guess from like October to February, all my rating, I think I walked away with a quick strike ring. I think that's probably what I walked away with, and that was pretty much it. So in a DKP guild, all my DKP basically went to waste, and all that rating was worthless to me. So we go into BWL, and the Drake Fire Pauldrons or Drake Talon Pauldrons drop, and they're about the same upgrade as an Onslaught Girdle for me. So I was like, let me just spend my DKP on this. I ended up way overpaying because they dropped like candy. And then that next Molten Core week, we get an Onslaught Girdle to drop, and I went
Oh.
from being number 1 DKP for like 6 months. Suddenly, I'm not anymore, and I had to give up that Onslaught Girdle. But luckily, 2 weeks later, or maybe even 1 week later, we got another one for me, and I was able to finally check it off my list and relax. But
I think that
I was
was the
really
onslaught.
worried.
I think I got the onslaught girdle that
No,
time.
Perky's did. Perky's got it
Oh,
the first time. I think you got the
okay.
third.
I got
Yeah.
the second one then because
You
I
got the third.
thought Perky's had bid me up, and then I'm pretty sure you go, Bob, it was me, and then you got the next one. But I mean, I
No.
could be wrong, but I just
It's not. You're
remember.
thinking of still bidding you up.
Oh,
You're thinking of
maybe.
still building you up on the third one. I definitely got the second one. Don't listen to Bob. I promise. And I was stoked. I remember we had a little guild drama around it. That's why I know it was the second one. Uh, so that's really why it's memorable for me. We had somebody
Gotcha.
switch from paladin over to warrior, and he got to keep his DKP, so it was a worrisome moment for me and for Bob, but luckily we got ours, and that worked out. So Onslaught Girdle is the only item that I've ever really been that concerned about. So that's pretty much my favorite gear drop.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I think mine was the same. It was the Rejuve gem, right? Because that was the one item that just would never drop. I don't,
Yeah.
and it was able to drop off of 3 bosses, and it just never dropped. And we were way, I think, into AQ before I got it. So,
Yeah, no, we definitely were. We had really great luck with Drake. I'm losing my mind on all the names of all of these things. DFT, Drake Fang Talisman. All right. So Drake Fang Talisman, we had like 10 or 11 of this entire time. And there was a moment in time when we were like at 8, and we just get one every other week. We had done like 16 raids, and we had 8 Drake Fang Talismans. But and now we've had even a couple more, and we were at like 1 Rejuve gem in like all of phase 3 at
yeah.
most. So it was a pretty drastic difference, and we're still super low on Rejuve gems. We have a decent amount now, but we still only have a few of them, and we still only have, I think, 3 Nelfs tiers. So our luck with trinkets were all in favor of melee, unfortunately for everyone else. Fortunately for other people, but our talisman or our trinket luck was very, very odd.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Carterizing Band, I think, was another one in MC that was really tough to get.
Yeah, I think for me it would have to be something I thought I just would never have in WoW Classic, and that's the Maladath.
Yeah.
I mean, it's super rare, and I never aspired to get it. I mean, I struggled with even getting swords early on in the game. I mean, I was using Edge Masters and everything else, and then I get a CTS or CTS. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I'm confusing myself now too. But I get that,
God.
and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then all of a sudden, I think it was the week after, or maybe the week after that, Maladath drops. I wouldn't have got it if our main tank had showed up to the raid that night, but he usually shows up like almost on, clockwork, but he just had
Yeah.
something come up and didn't show up. And so I got Maladath, and I was just like, what's going on right now? And
Yeah, that was crazy. I remember thinking, and I was looking, and I was just like, I could have, if I had not gotten a couple things or like something the week before, I could have gotten Maladath, and I was like, I didn't even ever put Maladath on a list of items I could get. Like Bob must be so stoked
I
because
think,
really, so few dropped, and the next one was definitely going to our main tank. I don't think it was even in anyone's radar that that
yeah, that
anyone
I
could
could
get that
even get it.
Maladath.
Yeah, because the main
It was
tank's
so
going to be
amazing.
there. And I think the week before was the week you got DFT.
Yeah, that's what it was. Is you sort of passed DFT to me, and then because of that, you got Maladath the next year.
Yeah.
You were immediately rewarded with great karma because that sword is amazing, and now you're like a super
Oh,
top
God.
parser in our guild with it. It works out really well.
Oh man, yeah. That's definitely like my favorite drop. It was nuts. So to end it out, we might take a couple questions from chat, but to end it out, do you have any favorite moments in the guild? In WoW Classic, not it doesn't have to be the guild.
No pressure, though, right?
Yeah, when
If
our
it's not
guild
the
broke
guild.
up. No.
Yeah.
No, for me, this is what I was saying earlier. It was the AV launch week was so fun for me. It also was the reason I made like a lot of friends in the guild. We spent a lot of time doing Alterac Valley that week. I was playing some really unhealthy, degenerate hours. I was playing like pretty much all day, every day to get exalted. And then I did the same thing for the rest of the week just because like other people were doing it. And I was thinking maybe I could rank and I was getting a ton of honor. So I just like spent long hours with like our guild leaders. I spent long hours with some people who I consider really good friends in our guild, like Zilzag and FJ. And that was when I really like spent a lot of time in Discord, really meeting these people outside of just like raid or sometimes dungeons with them. So AV launch week was like really special for me. It was super easy for Alliance to win. We would just go through and spam and win in 7 minutes every time. So it was fun. It was easy. And it was just like a really great moment in time for Classic WoW for
Basically
me.
nothing like it is right now.
Yeah, now it's a
Yeah,
nightmare.
now it's a nightmare.
Oh, yeah. That's fine.
Cool.
I don't. Bob, you go.
Okay, well, for me, it would have to be my first Molten Core raid. I know it was just Molten Core, but it was the first time raiding with the guild, and I was just having a blast seeing all the stuff that I had forgotten about, relearning all the different fights, kind of getting to know some of the guild members through tells and people telling me all the stuff I'm doing wrong, like Rupture. I was never a warrior. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to. Or is
Rend?
Rupture red? Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. There
Bob.
was
He
this
doesn't know
warrior.
Warrior still. No.
Well, it's
Even
because
I know you're not supposed to rend.
Ren's not even on my bar now because, I just didn't realize how worthless it was. I used it all to level up. That was so dumb. But yeah, and so, just different things. And then IDDQD messaging me after the raid on Discord, like, hey, man, we really enjoyed you coming, but we're going to need you to go Fury because I was Mortal Strike.
Oh yeah, you were Mortal Strike the first week.
Yeah, but I just figured the first week they said I could come. I figured I was an alternate that would get called in if somebody didn't make it, but I actually just made it into raid, and I was like, oh crap, I don't even have one-hand weapons. Like, I need to go get one-hand weapons, like I just
Oh
have
my
this,
God.
was it the Destiny sword that would proc 200 strength every once in a while? So it was like,
Wow.
yeah,
Nice.
but
Yeah. I brought in a Thrash Blade and Dalren's offhand were my two It was actually pretty good, like, honestly. Like, not that different than having, better weapons or $2 ends or even Brutality Blade, because like, there's so many good stats on your gear, and bringing world buffs trivializes, like, that sort of marginal increase that if you're bringing world buffs and consumes, your difference in DPS was, not
Yeah.
not as huge.
Yeah, and it was just fun. I ended up having a Kroll Blade drop for me a couple weeks later, which was really nice early on. But
Yeah. You were like the weapon switcher. Every week you would come with two different weapons.
because
Like I would always look at you.
I was watching all these different videos and everything else, and lots of the YouTubers early on just did not properly explain the +5 weapon skill and how much it actually mattered. So I was coming, before I had Edge Masters, I got the Axe Drop, the Death Bringer,
Deathbringer.
yeah, from Ani, and I was so stoked, but then found out that, my Kroll Blade, even though way less DPS, actually does more DPS because of glancing blows and the way that works. And so I had spent all this time working up to get Edge Masters, and it was just, it was just a whole deal. But I was definitely changing weapons. I was spending way too much DKP on two-handed weapons because I thought I had these ideas that I was going to go do PvP and just PvP all the time. It was going to be wonderful. I was going to respec every week. And yeah, you just sad realization that just wasn't going to be a thing.
Definitely not.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. But yeah, that was my favorite moment. Do you guys want to take a couple questions
don't
from
wanna know my
chat
favorite
before
moment?
we go? Oh, I thought you. Oh, okay. You do have one. You were trying to
No,
think of one.
not
That's why
really.
you told
I
me
was
to
trying to
go.
think of one. Yeah. So I have a really bad memory. I also have lots of favorite moments. So I'm gonna go with just recency bias here and say all of my favorite moments in the last
Or bingo.
recent few months are, well, bingo's included. But no, it's our healer chat because let me just tell you, that is lit and we entertain ourselves and we get through all the hard times in our healer chat, okay? Healer
Oh,
chat
I'm
plus corpse.
jealous. I'm jealous
Just
of
saying.
healer chat. I was like,
It's true.
I think I told somebody, I don't know if it was Jasmine or what, but I was like, I have a flash set. When I use that, can I get into healer chat? No.
No.
Yeah, it
Gotta
was a
be
hard no.
exclusive. The reason Healer Chat is so good is because of how exclusive it is. I'm not in it.
Yeah,
If
I know.
Bob gets in it, you guys better let me in that.
No. Bob will look over though, and I'm just like cracking up over my computer. He's like, "What's so funny?" And I'm like, "Nothing. Nothing. It's fine."
Do you guys want to take some of the questions from chat?
Yeah, let's do it.
Do it for just a few minutes here, and then we'll close out. Do you guys have one that you want to answer? Bingo asked a bunch. I don't think we can get them all, but if anybody wants to put one in now, go ahead.
Yeah, and an easy one is that Bingo asked was about world buffs, and I think unequivocally we just hate world buffs at this point in time. I think that was a huge negative on how enjoyable the rating experience is. I mean, I like how easy it makes certain things. That it's useful for that, like patchwork without world buffs would be a bigger story than what patchwork is with world buffs. But it really is a draining experience. I think that a lot of people probably didn't quit because of world buffs, but it is just like an extra. It turns raid night into like raid day as you're trying to get your world buffs and you're locking out of your main character. And if you're doing it the night before, maybe you're not playing at all the next day. And that sort of thing ends up being really, really draining. So world buffs to me were very bad. They're a huge negative for 2020.
Definitely. I had to retrain my brain because I was getting absurdly and uncomfortably, even for myself, angry. And it's so hard to not get angry when you spend, an hour and a half, and sometimes it was a lot longer early on because I was dying and not knowing that I could, reset my PvP timer. And there was just a whole bunch of things I didn't know what buffs could be purged, what couldn't. It was just so much stress. And then you die real early on. And I mean, I had to train my brain to just be like, it's okay. You're just gonna die. That's just the way it's gonna be. And I still sometimes have to catch myself, and just be like, no, do not get angry about this because it's just nothing you can do about it. It's dumb to get angry, but it's hard not to because you just put so much extra time in.
And not just personal anger, like it makes your raid members angry too. Like throughout the time of this guild that we've been in, we've had plenty of members who really get upset when they lose their world buffs. I think we're in a really healthy spot right now. We don't have really anybody. I don't think we have anybody who really cares if they die or not anymore. We've had people die like on the first pull, and like they don't have a lot to say. They're not
I
talking in
think,
raid chat anymore, like dissing
yeah.
healers or anything.
Yeah.
We've kind of
Well,
we expelled that from our guild almost
did we?
entirely at this
Did
point.
we?
Well, and I mean, so many people, I mean, myself included, I would get so angry. I'd say things that I don't mean and just embarrassing things that, later on I felt just complete sorrow and just felt gross that I even said the things that I
Yeah,
said.
like you were
Yeah, like
saying,
it
I'm
was
gonna
the
start
healer's fault.
rending. I'm gonna rend now.
I'm gonna rend now. Oh gosh.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I also think though it's different in progression. People are much more understanding about losing world buffs in progression because they know everybody is eventually going to lose them anyways because we're obviously going to wipe on something. So I think that a lot of the understanding right now may be coming from that, but I'm optimistic that maybe it will continue.
That's good.
Okay, so Bingo also asked what we would like our progression in Next to look like over the next few weeks.
Yeah. So for me, I think in the next 2 weeks, we want to be We want to be 13 of 15 at least. Saffron might end up taking a little bit of time to make sure everyone has their gear because I don't think that our guild is that prepared for Saffron right now. But we have a lot of frozen runes, and we're going to be helping people craft their frost gear with those. So hopefully, it's a pretty smooth process.
And
But Four
frozen
Horsemen and
rooms are
Lotheb,
dropping in
yeah, they're super cheap.
price. Yeah, they're dropping in
Yeah.
price every day.
So Lotheb and Four Horsemen are sort of the two goals that we want to get down. We have not had any time over the holidays in the last like 2 to 3 weeks, really, to put any effort into Lotheb and Four Horsemen. So that's been kind of like our biggest stalling point. But I think that we are fine with a little bit of time. So next week, we're going to be able to get 9 to 11 bosses down on Tuesday. And then it's going to be all progression on Thursday for us. So assuming we have enough people who show up, people aren't just like suddenly quitting and people are focused after the holidays, then I think that 13 out of 15 is very doable this upcoming week. Might take an extra week to get, and maybe we end up killing like Lotheb this week or we kill Four Horsemen and maybe it takes an extra week. But that's sort of my goal, is getting 13 of 15 in the next 2 weeks. And then we're on Saffron and KT, and I think that they fall with some time too. I think that's just sort of inevitable. Gear for Saffron makes it's a pretty simple fight. You just need the gear. And then KT sounds like the mechanics it's a little bit wild, but I think we'll get that down with some time.
We definitely need to do some attempts on Saffron soon because I overbought on frost resist potions, and then we just recently had a guildie quit who gave me all of his consumes, and so I've got so much bank space just used up, and I bought like something like 40 mongoose potions or something like that.
It's fine.
To
Just
Well,
send them
if
to
you need
me.
me to
I'll
hold
send
some,
them to you. Yeah.
just mail them over.
Wife. I get the wife advantage here. I get them first. Yep.
You get all the wife advantages all the time. Give me the wife
Yeah.
advantages in
This
this
is
one
no different.
instance.
I have to live with this man every day. Okay.
Oh man! All right, well, let's just go ahead and end it
Okay.
there.
You don't want to answer Jasmine's question?
Oh yeah, go right ahead.
This is for Yip. Who do you think should get the next Thunder Fury if the opportunity presents itself?
That's classified information. So I can't really say. I think that it should go to a warrior. I don't think we should be handing out like DPS Thunder Furies. I don't think we should be handing out like
You don't think Jasmine should
any.
get it?
I think someone. No, I don't think so. So we did sort of like ATS. We didn't exactly min max. We actually gave that to our druid, and I think that that's a very like special thing. It's like a big thank you to someone who's been a huge role in our guild. So I think that that's really special. I think for Thunder Fury, I mean, a thank you is nice, but I think if someone who's going to be able to use it for the guild in a good way is also going to be important as well too. So I think that that would probably be the best thing. But let's get my Thunder Fury first before we start worrying about
The next one.
Yeah, if we talk
If
about
we're
the next
ever
one, it's
gonna
actually
run
me.
NC.
Yeah, technically I'm the
right?
next Thunder Fury.
Oh, man. All right. Well, that's going to end the episode for this week, but we will leave you with a add-on of the week. And this week we're going to
So
do a little something special.
Taking away his
Oh,
intro
go
here.
right ahead.
Man.
Yep, go right ahead.
no, it's fine, Bob. Star of the show. You know, you always get to go first. The one thing I get, he's taking it away from me. But this week we are doing something special. Since we are doing this sort of look back, we're doing this sort of look back on 2020 and sort of the whole thing. We want to just bring out and tell you what our personal favorite add-ons are. Probably we've named them some point on the podcast at this point. I don't think we have any favorites that we left out on the add-on of the week. But we'd go through and tell you what we use the most or what we like the most. So Bob, do you have one?
I do, and it's one that I actually just couldn't have survived Warrior without, and that has got to be Item Rack. Item Rack is my saving grace. There's no possible way I would have always been screwing up something with my gear, trying to change it out, and it just would have been a huge hassle. With now, I have 7 different gear sets that I use quite often, and I do it with the click of a button.
7?
Yeah, dude, Warrior is rough.
God.
It is
I think
rough.
Item Rack might have actually been the cause of the add-on of the week, because I think I was really excited about having just gotten Item Rack and how useful it was, and I was like, we got to start telling people about add-ons, like because it's just so good. It
Yeah,
really is
so
insanely useful.
Well,
I'll not say
yeah.
it. I'll go ahead and not say Item Rack, although I am kind of thinking that maybe it's my favorite. But if I want to talk about over 2020 as a course of the year, it's definitely going to be Nova World Buffs. So Nova World Buffs was created really, really like a pet project. Like, it sort of just like came out and it gets updated so often because of how many changes to World Buffs happened throughout 2020. So it was really cool that somebody created something that would time world buffs for you. So you could log on and figure out what time the world buffs were happening. You could figure out what layer you were on, which was really important. You could immediately know when you're in Stormwind which layer you're on.
That would have
And
been
then you
so
can
nice
also,
to have in phase 1 too. Oh my gosh.
and the timers were based on layers. So you could know that there's an Ani head dropping on layer 2 at this time. And it made
Right.
world buff so much more manageable. It would be a nightmare without Nova world buffs. And even now, I think most people are still using it for like ZG buff and pretty much everything. It gives you a really nice heads up at when things are going to be launched. ZG is nice because you have like 50 seconds to switch over onto another character, so it's really easy to see when one gets launched if you're just holding your main in Booty Bay.
The Ani and Neff buff is like 12 seconds, and I'm always like, nah!
It's sketchy. If Stormwind's like super
Yeah.
populated, even with like an SSD, like I feel like sometimes it's like very close.
Well,
Yeah,
okay,
if
so
they don't reset it right away,
just
or if they don't drop it right away after they reset.
just not a yip tip, but a bob tip. If you are trying to watch on an alt for the Ani buff, the best thing to do is to log on an alt, turn off every add-on except for Nova World buffs, and you will log in lightning fast compared to what you normally log in with. So you're able to actually get out, log in quickly. Whereas if you have
When
a ton
did
of
you find this
add-ons,
out?
I mean, I've known it forever.
Thanks for sharing.
Well, but
That's actually a really good tip.
but the way we normally get it now is we see, one of the NPCs was killed, and we know to log in and just, we lose a couple minutes, but we know that a head's going to drop, on a Tuesday or a Thursday night.
Right, but I
I
think on
personally,
Wednesday, I think I told you, I was like, I have missed Ani and Neff 3 times just sitting here. You were like, oh, that
Yeah, I
stinks.
probably should have told you. I probably just was thinking about something else. My bad. I will try and remember in the future.
Personally, I don't know if every server has this, but I'm on the Whitemane Discord. So we have a server Discord, and there are channels in there where people will say if there's an exact time their guild's going to launch one, or people will buy ahead from someone else and say like at this time server we're going to launch it. And then I log in like a minute or two early on that, and then I waste a couple minutes. But it's just a guaranteed. If you miss it, like, man, if you're sitting like at work, or like I work from home right now, so I can be on WoW, and I'm trying to get my world buffs and trying to do work. If I miss that head, it ruins my day.
It does
It just
suck.
ruins it.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
you're like, you just miss it too. And you're like, dang it. Like you just walked away for a second. You were looking at something else for too long, and yeah, it's a bummer. But all right, well,
Mel, does Mel have a
oh,
add-on?
we
Ah,
know
constantly forgetting
exactly
about
what
Mel.
Mel's is, and it involves
Do
question
you?
marks. Yeah, I know what your favorite add-on is, and it's your
No,
question
not
marks.
anymore. Not anymore.
You have a new one. Okay, let's hear it.
I mean, Questy's great when you're questing. It's also great with the update because they show you where the mailboxes are. So that's cool. And the flight pass, which is really awesome because I have a bad memory, as you all know. But I think the one that I've utilized the most would be TSM, mainly so I don't buy $500 mana pots. But also, it just helps when like adding things to the auction house. It helps when sending mail. It helps when, okay, well, it could help you if you were like looking at everything that you had sold and bought and going way in depth into your finances, which I don't do, just like real life. But it's very helpful in many other aspects. That and Bagnon, or the other one that we just got, Addy Bags.
Yeah, Addy Bags is really nice. I really like
Yeah.
it.
Those I feel like are just non-negotiable things. You need something like that.
All right, cool. All right, guys. Well, we're getting out of here. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at WC Reloaded. If you want to follow the Mash Those Buttons Network, you can do that at the Mash Network. If you want to see us live on Fridays, normally around 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, you can do that on twitch.tv/mash those buttons. We want your stories. We really want to do this new segment for listener stories. Like, let your story get told by us, or send us an audio file. And as long as it's not too, scuffed audio wise, we could just add it in, and you could just tell your story on the podcast. So please feel free to send those in. Do so at wcrpodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to join our Discord, interact with the hosts, or see any of our other shows and interact with any of those hosts, you can do so by going to mash.gg/discord. You killed it this last week on iTunes ratings. You guys gave us 3 reviews. I think we got another 5-star that wasn't a review, but all of those help. They help us get seen on Google searches and everything else. So thank you for that, and keep those coming. You can also do warcraftradio.com/directory. You could leave a review there. And then also just don't forget to check out the Con Before the Storm panel, which is on January 15th at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. It'll be me, Def Camp, Melderon, Josh Corbett, and Guck. So check that out. That's at conbeforethestorm.com. All right, where can we find you, Ryan?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Cognitive Pit. You can follow my YouTube at youtube.com/Cognitive Pit. Content coming out this week, so tune in for that. That's going to be in the next day or two, since I have to upload it by then. So you can look out for that. Actually, this is coming out Monday, so you can probably check it out as you're listening to this. You can also find us and me and us streaming every week
Okay.
now, or most weeks at least. We will be streaming more. Tonight was our first live stream, and it went splendidly. So it should go better and better every week
Yeah.
from here on out.
Yep. The plan is next week to have Salve Dally back on to talk about the big boys, experience in Nex. You've gotten to hear our scuffed experiences and, sweaty casual, but Salve's going to be here to tell us, what it's like for the big dogs. Mel, where can we find you?
Oh, I thought you were gonna just forget about me again, like you have most of the episode, but thank you for not. All right, I see where I lie. You can find me on Twitter at Mel Overwatch. I always want to say something else because everybody has a lot more to say, but nope, that's it. You can also
You
find
could
me in
say
game at Mel Arena. It's not at,
that
but Mel Arena.
On Whitemane. That's better. I was going to suggest you could give your full first and last name and your physical address. They can find you there
Oh, yeah,
in
yeah,
real
yeah.
life.
Come on over. It's a party. Get this going.
We have two big dogs. Don't do it. All right. So you can find me on Twitter at blazin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB. I also sometimes stream our raids on Tuesday and Thursday nights. That's at twitch.tv/blazingbob. Whew. It was a good episode. It's always weird when you're doing live for the first time, but it was a good time. I hope people actually enjoy it. So, it was actually way less scuffed than I thought it was going to be.